The numbers on the screen blurred as I stared at them, my heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. 7, 14, 23, 31, 428. The same numbers I'd been playing every week for the past 3 years. The same numbers that were now worth $2.3 million. I was holding the winning lottery ticket in my shaking hands, and Jake was already planning our future from the kitchen. "Baby, we're gonna buy that house in Malibu," he shouted, his voice echoing through our tiny apartment. "And the Porsche. And maybe a boat." What I didn't know was that while I was crying tears of joy, Jake was already calculating how to steal every penny from the woman who had just made him rich. He had no idea that I always kept receipts. And he definitely had no idea that the security camera at Murphy's corner store captured everything, including the moment he told the cashier, "It was my money paying for that ticket." Before I tell you exactly how I destroyed the man who tried to rob me of my dreams, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. This story is about to get very dark, very fast. My name is Sarah Chen, and I should have known something was wrong when Jake suddenly became the perfect boyfriend. For 6 months, he'd been everything I dreamed of: attentive, romantic, talking about our future together. But looking back, his transformation had started exactly when I got promoted to regional sales manager. That Saturday morning started like any other. We walked to Murphy's corner store, a ritual we'd developed every week. Jake would buy his energy drinks and protein bars, and I would buy our lottery tickets with my weekly allowance from the grocery budget. Mrs. Murphy, the elderly Korean woman who owned the store, always smiled when she saw us coming. "The usual?" she'd ask, already reaching for the lottery terminal. "2 quick picks and one with our special numbers," I said, sliding my debit card across the counter. The same routine we'd followed for 3 years, ever since Jake moved in with me. Jake was browsing the energy drinks when Mrs. Murphy processed the payment. He grabbed 2 Red Bulls and walked over, kissing my cheek as I waited for the tickets to print. "You know these are just a waste of money, right babe?" he said, but he was smiling. It was our running joke. He called it Sarah's expensive habit, even though it was only $15 a week. Mrs. Murphy handed me the 3 tickets, and I folded them carefully into my wallet. Next to the dozens of losing tickets I kept as weird good luck charms. Jake paid for his drinks with cash, and we walked home hand in hand, talking about whether we should try that new Thai place for dinner. I forgot about the tickets completely until Sunday evening. I was doing laundry, going through my jeans pockets, when I found them. Jake was on the couch, watching some action movie with the volume way too loud. "Hey, can you turn that down for a second?" I called. "I want to check our numbers." He muted the TV and came over to the kitchen counter, where I had my laptop open to the lottery website. I smoothed out the first ticket, all losing numbers. The second ticket, 2 numbers matched, worth $3. Then I looked at the third ticket. Our special numbers, the numbers I'd been playing since my grandmother died 3 years ago, her birthday, my birthday, and the date she passed away, 7, 14, 23, 31, 428. My eyes darted between the ticket and the screen, back and forth. The numbers matched, all of them. "Jake," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "What's wrong?" he asked, coming closer. "Jake, I think we won." He looked over my shoulder at the screen, then at the ticket in my trembling hands. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then Jake let out a whoop so loud, I thought the neighbors would complain. "Are you serious? Are you fucking serious right now?" He grabbed me and spun me around the kitchen. "We're millionaires, baby! We're actually millionaires." The jackpot was $2.3 million. After taxes, we'd take home about $1.4 million, enough to change everything. That night, we stayed up until 3 a.m. planning our new life. Jake had a whole notebook filled with ideas: the house, the cars, the vacations. He was so excited he could barely sit still. "We need to be smart about this," he said, pacing around our living room. "We should get a financial advisor. Maybe buy some rental properties. Build real wealth, you know." I loved seeing him like this, animated, dreaming big, talking about or future. For the first time since we'd been together, Jake seemed to be thinking long-term about our relationship. "Should we tell anyone yet?" I asked. "Let's wait until we actually claim it," he said. "Don't want to jinx anything." Monday morning, I called in sick to work. We had decided to go to the lottery office first thing to verify the ticket and start the claiming process. Jake was practically bouncing off the walls with excitement. The lottery office was in a nondescript building downtown, nothing like the glamorous setup you see in movies. A tired-looking woman behind bulletproof glass examined our ticket with a scanner. "Congratulations," she said in a monotone voice, like she announced $1 million winners every day. "You'll need to fill out these forms. The process takes about 2 weeks for a jackpot this size." As we filled out the paperwork, I noticed Jake kept writing his name first on everything. When I pointed it out, he just shrugged. "Habit from work documents," he said. "Alphabetical order." But something about the way he said it didn't sit right with me. A little seed of unease planted itself in my stomach. The next few days passed in a blur of daydreams and planning. Jake quit his job at the construction company on Tuesday, telling his boss he was moving on to bigger things. I was more cautious, taking vacation time instead of quitting outright. "You don't need to work anymore, babe," Jake said when I told him my plan. "We're going to be rich. Why stress yourself out at that place? I like my job," I said. "And we should be responsible until the money actually comes through." That was our first fight about the lottery money, but it wouldn't be our last. By Thursday, Jake's behavior had completely shifted. He started making unilateral decisions about our money. He put a deposit down on a BMW without asking me. He booked a weekend trip to Las Vegas for just the guys to celebrate. "Jake, we agreed to be smart about this," I said when he showed me the Vegas confirmation email. "Relax, Sarah. It's just a few thousand. We're about to have over $1 million. But it's not here yet. And that's our money, not just yours." Jake turned to look at me with an expression I'd never seen before, cold, almost calculating. "Our money," he said. "I seem to remember I'm the one who picked those numbers." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about? Those are my grandmother's dates. I've been playing them for 3 years. Are you sure about that?" he said, and something in his tone made my blood freeze. That night, Jake went out with his friends to celebrate. He didn't invite me. He came home at 3 a.m., drunk and smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. Friday morning, everything fell apart. I woke up to find Jake packing his clothes into 2 large suitcases. For a moment, I thought maybe he was organizing for our future move. "What's going on?" I asked. Still groggy from sleep. "I'm leaving, Sarah," he said without looking up from his packing. The words hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean leaving? What about our plans? What about the money?" Jake finally stopped packing and turned to face me. The man I thought I knew, the man I'd been planning a future with just days ago, was gone. In his place was a stranger with empty eyes. "What money?" he said. "The lottery ticket was bought with my money. It's my win." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline, waiting for him to break character and laugh at his own cruel joke. But he just kept packing. "Jake, you can't be serious. We bought those tickets together. With money from my account. Those are my grandmother's numbers." "Prove it," he said, zipping up his first suitcase. "I have the receipt." "You have a receipt for lottery tickets. Doesn't say whose numbers they were or who decided to play them." My legs felt weak. I sat down hard on the bed, watching this man I'd trusted with everything calmly pack up his life. "I don't understand," I whispered. "We were planning our future together. Just yesterday you were talking about the house we were going to buy." Jake straightened up and looked at me with something that might have been pity. "Sarah, you're a nice girl. But let's be honest about what this relationship really was. I needed a place to stay after my divorce. You needed someone to help with rent. It worked for both of us." Each word was like a knife between my ribs. "But you said you loved me." "I say a lot of things." He picked up both suitcases and headed for the door. At the threshold, he turned back one last time. "Don't try to fight this, Sarah. I've already talked to a lawyer. The ticket was purchased by me for me. You have no legal claim to any of it, you bastard," I said, finding my voice at last. "Maybe, but I'm a rich bastard now." The front door slammed behind him, and I was alone with the wreckage of what I thought was my life. For the first hour after Jake left, I couldn't move. I sat on the bed, staring at the empty space where his dresser used to be, trying to process what had just happened. The man I'd been living with for 3 years, had just walked out of my life with $2.3 million, that belonged to both of us. Money that would have changed everything for me, paid off my student loans, helped my parents with their mortgage, given me the security I'd been working toward my entire adult life. and he'd taken it all. I called my best friend Maya, but I couldn't get the words out through my crying. I called my mom, but I was too humiliated to explain what had happened. How do you tell someone that the man you've been sharing a bed with for 3 years just robbed you and walked away? By evening, the shock was wearing off and anger was setting in. Jake thought he could steal from me and just disappear. He thought I was too weak or too stupid to fight back. He had no idea who he was dealing with. I dried my tears, made a pot of coffee, and sat down at my kitchen table with a notebook. If Jake wanted to play legal games, I'd give him legal games. But first, I needed evidence. The lottery office had security cameras. Mrs. Murphy's store had security cameras. My bank had transaction records. I had text messages, photos, witnesses who could testify that we'd been buying tickets together for years. Most importantly, I had something Jake didn't know about. Something that was going to destroy his entire story. I'd always been careful about money. Maybe too careful, according to Jake, who used to tease me about keeping every receipt, every statement, every piece of financial documentation. But my grandmother had taught me that a woman should always know exactly where every penny goes. Keep records, little one, she used to say in her broken English. Money comes, money goes. But paper remembers everything. I pulled out my file folders, yes. I kept physical folders, and found what I was looking for. Every lottery receipt for the past 3 years, organized by date and paper, clipped to my bank statements. Proof of when I bought tickets, how much I spent, and that it came from my account. But that wasn't the smoking gun. The smoking gun was much better. 3 months ago, Jake had borrowed $500 from me to help his sister with her rent. He'd insisted on paying me back, and when he did, he'd been short by $15. I'll get you the $15 next week, he'd said. I'm just tight right now. But Jake had a weird hang up about owing people money, even small amounts. The next Saturday, when we went to Murphy's store, he'd specifically told Mrs. Murphy to put my lottery tickets on his energy drink purchase. Just add it to my stuff, he'd said, handing her a 20. I owe my girlfriend some money anyway. A Mrs. Murphy, who barely spoke English but understood numbers perfectly, had nodded and processed everything together on Jake's cash transaction. I'd thought it was sweet at the time. Jake paying for my little gambling habit as a way to settle his debt. I'd even kissed him and called him thoughtful. What I didn't realize until now was that it had happened multiple times since then. Every time Jake felt guilty about money, he'd pay for my tickets. And Mrs. Murphy's old cash register and security system recorded every transaction. If I could get those records, they would prove that Jake had paid for lottery tickets for me multiple times, establishing a clear pattern that the tickets were gifts from him to me, purchased on my behalf. But even better than that, I remembered something else. Something that made me smile for the first time since Jake had walked out. The winning ticket, the ticket Jake was claiming he'd bought with his own money, had been purchased the Saturday after Jake borrowed gas money from me because his account was overdrawn. He'd been completely broke. I had proof he had no money that week. And I had proof that I'd paid for those tickets with my debit card. Monday morning, I called in sick again and drove to Murphy's corner store. Mrs. Murphy looked surprised to see me without Jake. In 3 years, I don't think I'd ever come in alone. Where is boyfriend? She asked in her heavily accented English. Mrs. Murphy, I need your help with something, I said. It's very important. I explained the situation as simply as I could. Mrs. Murphy listened with growing anger, her face getting redder with each detail. He steal from you? She asked when I finished. He's trying to. Murphy disappeared into the back room, and returned with a cardboard box full of receipt paper rolls, and a laptop that looked like it was from the early 2000s. My son set up cameras, she said, pointing to the small black domes on the ceiling that I'd never really noticed before. He says keep everything for taxes. It took us 2 hours. But we found what I needed. Footage from the Saturday morning 3 months ago, showing Jake specifically telling Mrs. Murphy to add my lottery tickets to his purchase. Footage from other Saturdays showing the same thing. And most importantly, footage from the morning we bought the winning ticket. The sound quality was poor, but you could clearly hear me saying, 2 quick pics and one with our special numbers. And Jake, standing behind me, telling Mrs. Murphy, put it all on my girlfriend's card, she's the one with the gambling problem. He'd literally called it my gambling problem, while I was paying for the tickets. Mrs. Murphy burned everything onto a CD and refused to let me pay her for her time. Men like that, she said, shaking her head disgustedly, they think women are stupid. You show him stupid. Next, I drove to my bank and requested printed statements and transaction records for the past year. The young teller was sympathetic when I explained I was gathering evidence for a legal dispute. Take him for everything, she said quietly, sliding the documents across the counter. By Wednesday, I had a folder thick with evidence. Receipt records, bank statements, security footage, text message printouts showing Jake asking me for money multiple times over the past months. I even had a voicemail from 2 weeks ago where he thanked me for always being there financially when things get tight. I made an appointment with Elena Rodriguez, an attorney who specialized in fraud cases. Her office was in a sleek downtown building, all glass and steel, the kind of place that meant business. Elena was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 30s, with sharp eyes and an expensive suit. She listened to my story without interrupting, taking notes on a legal pad. This is pretty cut and dried, she said when I finished. He's committed fraud, plain and simple. The evidence you've gathered is excellent. So I can get the money back. Not only can you get the money back, but we can also pursue damages for emotional distress, and potentially have him charged criminally for fraud and theft. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe normally. There's one thing you should know, Elena continued. Cases like this can take time, and lottery winnings are complicated. We need to move fast to freeze the payout before he can claim it. How long do we have? Elena checked her calendar. The lottery office said 2 weeks for processing. That was Monday. We have about 10 days. What do we do first? Elena smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator who'd just spotted prey. First, we file an emergency injunction to freeze the lottery payout pending resolution of our fraud claim. Then we serve him with papers for theft, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. Breach of fiduciary duty. When two people live together and share finances for an extended period, especially when one party is financially supporting the other, it creates a legal duty of trust. By stealing money that legally belongs to both of you, he violated that trust. I felt something loosening in my chest, a knot of fear and helplessness that had been growing since Saturday morning. How much is this going to cost? I work on contingency for cases like this. I get paid when you get paid. But Sarah, Elena leaned forward, I need you to understand something. This is going to get ugly. Men like Jake don't go down easy, and he's going to have lawyers of his own now. I don't care how ugly it gets. Elena nodded approvingly. Good, because we're about to ruin his life. The injunction was filed Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, Jake was calling my phone, screaming, You can't do this, Sarah! That's my money. Actually, I can do this, I said calmly. And it's our money. I'll fight you in court. I'll prove those were my numbers, my ticket, my choice to buy it. Good luck with that. I hung up on him. He called back immediately. Sarah, be reasonable. We can split it. 50-50. I was just upset when I left. I didn't mean what I said. Oh, now you want to split it. Come on, babe. We're good together. This money could set us both up for life. Don't let lawyers eat it all up in fees. The desperation in his voice was so different from the cold cruelty he'd shown me Saturday morning. Now that his theft was threatened, suddenly we were partners again. Jake, let me ask you something. When you told that lawyer that you bought the ticket with your money, what exactly did you tell him? I told him the truth. Which truth? The one where you paid for it, or the one where you were broke and borrowed gas money from me that same week? Silence on the other end. That's what I thought, I said, and hung up again. This time, he didn't call back. Friday morning, Elena called me with an update that made me want to dance around my living room. The injunction went through, she said. The Lottery Commission has frozen the payout pending resolution of our case. But that's not the best part. What's the best part? Jake hired Thompson and Associates to represent him. They're expensive, about $800 an hour expensive. Which means he's already spending money he doesn't have on lawyers. How is that good for us? Because Thompson and Associates specialize in high net worth divorce cases. They're not fraud lawyers. They're used to splitting assets between wealthy spouses, not defending theft cases. They're completely out of their element. And they made a huge mistake in their response to our injunction. They claimed that Jake was the primary financial contributor to your relationship, and therefore entitled to the majority of any joint assets. I didn't understand why that was good news. Elena explained. They claiming he was the primary financial contributor, they've opened the door for us to subpoena all of his financial records for the past 3 years. Bank statements, credit card records, employment history, everything. Why is that important? Because you've been supporting him, not the other way around. Your bank records show multiple transfers to his account, payments for his car insurance, his phone bill, even his gym membership. Once we demonstrate that you were actually supporting him financially, their entire argument falls apart. I started to understand. And it proves that he couldn't have bought the lottery ticket with his own money, because he didn't have any money. Exactly. They just handed us a gift, wrapped case. The discovery phase lasted 2 weeks. Elena's team subpoenaed 3 years of financial records from both of us, employment records, even social media posts and text messages. What they found was even worse than I'd thought. Jake hadn't just been using me for rent money. He'd been systematically borrowing from me for 3 years, small amounts, always with promises to pay back, always with some excuse about why he was short on cash. My bank records showed over $15,000 in transfers to Jake's account over 3 years. His bank records showed that he'd gambled away most of it. Online poker, sports betting, trips to the casino. Jake had a serious gambling problem that he'd been hiding from me the entire time we'd been together. But the most damning evidence came from his own phone. Text messages to his friends bragging about his sugar mama, who paid all his bills. Photos from expensive restaurants and bars, tagged with locations and dates that corresponded exactly with times when he'd borrowed money from me for emergencies. And then there was the smoking gun. A text message sent the morning after he'd left me. Jake to his friend Marcus, "Dude, I finally found a way out. Sarah's been playing these lottery numbers for years. Stupid sentimental crap about her dead grandmother. I've been paying attention, and when they finally hit, I'm going to claim it was my idea and my ticket. She's too soft to fight me on it. I'll be free and rich." Marcus had replied, "That's cold, man. Even for you, Jakey. She owes me. I've been pretending to love her for 3 years. This is my payment." When Elena read me those texts over the phone, I had to sit down. The man I'd been sharing a bed with, the man I'd thought I was building a future with, had been planning to rob me all along. "Sarah, are you still there?" "I'm here," I managed to say. "There's more. We found betting records showing Jake lost over $8,000 gambling in the 2 weeks before he left you. He's not just a thief, he's a desperate thief. He needs this money to cover his debts." What does that mean for our case? It means we have him dead to rights on fraud charges. But it also means he's dangerous. Men in his position do unpredictable things when they're cornered. Elena was right. The next morning, I woke up to find my car keyed. Deep gouges in the paint spelling out, ITCH, across the driver's side door. My apartment building's security camera had caught Jake in the act. He was looking directly into the camera while he destroyed my car, like he wanted me to know it was him. "File a police report," Elena instructed when I called her. "This is intimidation and vandalism. It's just going to make our case stronger." But I was scared now. Jake was unraveling, and he knew where I lived. I stayed at Maya's house that weekend, afraid to be alone in my apartment. Maya was furious when I told her the whole story. "I never liked him," she said. "There was always something off about him. He never seemed like he actually cared about you." "Then why didn't you say anything?" "Because you seemed happy. And I thought maybe I was just being overprotective." Maya made me promise not to go anywhere alone until the case was resolved. She even took time off work to come with me to court appearances. The case went to trial 3 months later. By then, Elena had built such an airtight case that Jake's lawyers were begging for a settlement. They're offering 60-40 split. Elena told me the week before trial. "What do you think?" "I think we can get it all, plus damages. The evidence is overwhelming, but trials are unpredictable. A settlement guarantees you get something." "I want to go to trial." Elena smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that." The trial lasted 2 days. Elena systematically destroyed Jake's story piece by piece. She started with the financial records, showing the jury bank statements that proved I'd been supporting Jake for years. She showed them the text messages where Jake called me his sugar mama. She played the security footage from Murphy's store, with Jake clearly saying the tickets were being purchased with my money. But the piece de resistance was Jake's own testimony. Elena had coached me on what to expect, but I wasn't prepared for how different Jake looked. He'd lost weight, and his clothes didn't fit properly. His hands shook when he was sworn in. Mr. Chen, Elena began. You claim that you purchased the winning lottery ticket with your own money. Is that correct? Les. And you claim that the numbers played were your choice. Les. Elena approached the witness stand with a stack of documents. I'm showing you Exhibit A. Your bank statements for the month of March. Can you tell the jury what your account balance was on March 15th? Jake looked at the papers, his face getting red. I don't remember exactly. According to these statements, your account was overdrawn by $247. Is that correct? Maybe. And Exhibit B shows that on March 17th, 2 days before the lottery ticket was purchased, you borrowed $6 from Miss Chen for gas money. Do you recall that? Jake's lawyer objected, but the judge overruled. I might have borrowed some money. So you borrowed money for gas because you were broke, but then 2 days later you had money to buy lottery tickets. I got paid. Elena smiled and approached the jury box. Mr. Chen, you testified that you got paid between March 17th and March 19th. I'm now showing you Exhibit C, your employment records. According to your employer, you weren't scheduled to work March 18th, and payroll shows your next paycheck wasn't deposited until March 22nd. 3 days after the lottery ticket was purchased. Jake stared at the document like it was written in a foreign language. So where did the money come from to buy the lottery tickets? I had some cash. Cash from where? I don't remember. Elena returned to the evidence table and picked up another folder. Mr. Chen, I'm showing you Exhibit D, a text message you sent to Marcus Williams on March 20th, the morning after the lottery numbers were announced. Can you read this message to the jury? Jake's face went white. His lawyer whispered something in his ear, and Jake shook his head. I'll read it for you. Elena said. Dude. I finally found a way out. Sarah's been playing these lottery numbers for years, stupid sentimental crap about her dead grandmother. I've been paying attention. And when they finally hit, I'm going to claim it was my idea and my ticket. She's too soft to fight me on it. I'll be free and rich. The courtroom was completely silent. Did you send this text message, Mr. Chen? Jake's voice was barely a whisper. I was upset. You were upset, so you decided to defraud Ms. Chen out of $2.3 million. That's not what happened. Elena walked back to the witness stand and leaned against the rail. Mr. Chen. Isn't it true that you planned this theft for months? That you deliberately paid attention to the lottery numbers Ms. Chen played, waited for them to win, and then concocted a scheme to steal her winnings? No. Isn't it true that you never loved Ms. Chen, and that you used her financially for 3 years while planning to eventually rob her? Jake's composure finally cracked completely. She owes me, he shouted, standing up in the witness box. I wasted 3 years of my life with her. 3 years I could have spent with someone better. Someone who didn't need me to pretend to care about her boring job, and her dead grandmother, and her stupid dreams. The courtroom erupted. Jake's lawyer was pulling on his arm, trying to get him to sit down. The judge was banging his gavel, and I was crying, but not from sadness. I was crying from relief, because finally, everyone could see exactly who Jake really was. Elena didn't need to ask any more questions. The jury deliberated for less than an hour. We find in favor of the plaintiff, Sarah Chen, in the amount of $2.3 million, plus punitive damages in the amount of $500,000, plus attorney fees and court costs. Jake collapsed in his chair like someone had cut his strings. But the judge wasn't done. Mr. Chen, based on the evidence presented in this trial, I am referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution on charges of fraud, theft, and perjury. Elena squeezed my hand under the table. We'd won everything. After the trial, Jake's lawyer approached Elena in the hallway. My client would like to speak with Ms. Chen privately. Absolutely not. Elena said immediately. Please. He just wants to apologize. I looked through the courtroom window and saw Jake sitting alone at the defendant's table, his head in his hands. He looked broken. 5 minutes, I said. With witnesses. Elena and Maya came with me back into the courtroom. Jake looked up when we approached, and I barely recognized him. The confident, charismatic man I'd fallen in love with was gone. Sarah, he said, his voice hoarse from crying. I'm sorry, I'm so fucking sorry. I didn't say anything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I ruined everything. But I need you to know that I did love you, at the beginning. Before everything got so fucked up. When? I asked quietly. When did you love me, Jake? Before you started stealing from me? Before you started lying to me? Or before you started planning to rob me? He didn't have an answer. I was desperate, he said finally. I owed money to dangerous people. I thought if I could just get ahead, get some real money, I could change. I could be the man you deserved. By stealing from me. I'm sick, Sarah. I have a gambling problem. I need help. That's not my responsibility anymore. I turned to leave, but Jake called my name one more time. What are you going to do with the money? I looked back at him. This man who had tried to destroy my life for his own gain. I'm going to live, I said. Without you. Jake was sentenced to 3 years in prison for fraud and theft. His gambling debts, it turned out, were even worse than anyone knew. He'd borrowed money from loan sharks, maxed out credit cards under fake names, even stolen from his construction job. The lottery money wouldn't have been enough to save him anyway. I used the settlement money to pay off my student loans, help my parents with their mortgage, and buy a small house in a good neighborhood. Nothing flashy, nothing that screamed, lottery winner. Just a safe, comfortable place that was completely mine. I also started a foundation to help women who've been financially abused by their partners. It's amazing how many women don't even realize it's happening to them until someone explains the patterns. Elena became more than just my lawyer, she became a friend. We meet for lunch once a month, and she always asks if I've started dating again. Are you ready to trust someone new? She asked me last week. I'm ready to trust myself, I said. That's enough for now. Maya thinks I should write a book about the whole experience. Maybe someday I will. But for now, I'm focused on building the life I always wanted, the life Jake almost stole from me. Sometimes I still go to Murphy's corner store to buy lottery tickets. Mrs. Murphy always asks about Jake, and I always tell her he's no longer in the picture. She nods approvingly and wishes me luck with my numbers. I still play my grandmother's dates. Not because I expect to win again, lightning doesn't strike twice. But because they remind me of something important. My grandmother came to this country with nothing but the clothes on her back, and a fierce determination to build a better life for her family. She worked in factories, saved every penny, and never let anyone take advantage of her kindness. Keep records, little one, she used to say, money comes, money goes. But paper remembers everything. She was right about more than just record keeping. She was right about trusting yourself, standing up for what's yours, and never letting anyone make you feel small. Jake thought he was taking advantage of a naive woman who would be too intimidated to fight back. He thought he could steal my dreams and disappear into his new rich life, while I picked up the pieces of my broken heart. He had no idea that my grandmother had raised a fighter. The real lottery win wasn't the 2.3 million. It was discovering that I was strong enough to fight for myself, smart enough to gather evidence, and brave enough to see it through to the end. And that's worth more than any jackpot could ever be. Did you like this story? Tell us in the comments which city you're listening from. If you enjoyed this dramatic tale of betrayal and justice, please support us with a super thanks, so we can continue bringing you more incredible life stories like this one. Thank you so much for your support. We look forward to your comments about Sarah's amazing journey. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that we highly recommend. There's so much more content on our channel, don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story, with love and respect.